QML is an iconic Queensland company with over 2,000 employees and over $400 million of annual revenues. QML doesn't exist without the legacy of the people who come before. You know, they're the ones who started an industry from effectively what was a cottage industry at the start of the century. And it's grown to a behemoth that is absolutely amazing for the people of Queensland. So you can't underestimate the legacy that the pathologists that have come before us have delivered to the business and to the field of medicine in Queensland.
You know, the Guthrie laboratory in 1959 when Dad came back from London was 10 people. By 1962 it was 30 people, and by the end of the 1960s it was in the hundreds. That was the first time that it really kicked in and pathology turned from a private esoteric practice to a service industry.
By the time Dad left, there was 1,500 staff and there was a turnover of $150 million.
When Bob Dewey joined the partnership, which was in '74, it was a time of enormous change. QML was going from being, if you like, a hero-led practice with Noel as the driving force and Bruce as the driving force to an equal partnership of the employee pathologists. Bob brought an enormous expertise and knowledge to the practice, as well as this terrific link back to his father, who was really the founder of pathology in Queensland, James Vincent Dewey. And that link back was enormous and brought huge gravitas to QML, as well as Bob's enthusiasm and intelligence. And this was the days when it became the wonderful play between Sully's and Nick's and QML in a great chase to the top, if you like.
The single biggest effect on the practice was the introduction of Medibank. There was a sudden explosion in all pathology areas, and that necessitated QML to expand geographically as well, and it resulted in the establishment of branches throughout Queensland. We opened up in New South Wales.
It meant that general practitioners could request pathology tests rather than going to a specialist. It meant that those pathology tests were subsidised by the government. You could then go to a GP and just say, could I just check my blood or urine or whatever. I think the distinctive employee practices at QML started with Peter Auckland arriving in 1966 and implementing a superannuation scheme for the employees. The other part of that was education. Once you joined QML, you were educated if you had a desire to. In many cases, people stayed with QML for 30 and 40 years. It was like a family.
When I joined in '74, universal superannuation was a myth, and certainly, and very few organisations gave superannuation to women. And from my understanding, right from the outset, QML, virtually all of the female staff were superannuated. So I think that was a far-reaching thing and a very good reason why people stayed and enjoyed working there.
QML is still seen as the flagship of the Helios Group. It is still the largest and it is still the most important and recognised brand within the group. It's been a watershed event for pathology. It's brought pathology into the public eye because it's allowed us to connect with the public. It's very much a requirement these days for us to give people their result directly without going through their medical practitioner. But it's also been an amazing event for those of us working in the industry because we had to triple the size of our molecular testing laboratory within a number of weeks. And during that period, QML has provided over 1 million COVID-19 test to the people of Queensland. QML is also at the cutting edge of pathology practice and servicing over 20,000 people of Queensland every single day.